Welcome, this is Cheating Tales Insight. Tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever had to make the impossible choice between protecting someone you love and exposing a truth that would shatter your family? Sometimes doing the right thing comes with consequences we never saw coming. Tell me in the comments below. Call me whatever you want. The story's what matters, and this one still keeps me awake at night. 3 months ago, I thought I was the hero of this story. I was the nephew who cared enough to install a hidden camera to protect my disabled uncle from his supposedly abusive caregiver. I was wrong about everything. My uncle Garrett had been living with multiple sclerosis for 8 years. The disease had progressed to the point where he needed full-time care. And after a series of failed nursing arrangements, he'd hired Valentina through a private agency. She was in her mid-40s, spoke with a slight accent, and had impeccable references. More importantly, Uncle Garrett seemed genuinely happy with her care. But my Aunt Celeste had concerns. During family dinners, she'd pull me aside with worried whispers about bruises she'd noticed on Garrett's arms, about how he seemed more withdrawn lately, about how Valentina was too controlling, and wouldn't let family members visit without advance notice. "Something's not right, Marcus," she'd say, gripping my arm. "I think she's hurting him, but he won't admit it. You know how proud he is." Celeste had been married to my father's brother for over 20 years before the divorce 3 years ago. Even after the split, she maintained a close relationship with Garrett, visiting weekly and helping coordinate his medical appointments. Her concerns seemed genuine, and frankly, they made sense. Vulnerable adults were often targets for abuse, and caregivers had been caught exploiting their patients before. The breaking point came when Celeste showed me photos she'd taken of finger-shaped bruises on Garrett's forearm during her last visit. She wouldn't let me stay more than 10 minutes. Celeste said, her voice shaking. "And look at this. These are grip marks, Marcus. Someone grabbed him hard enough to leave bruises." I stared at the photos on her phone, feeling sick. Uncle Garrett had always been my favorite relative growing up. He'd taught me to play chess, helped me with my college applications, and even loaned me money for my first car. The thought of someone hurting him while he was defenseless made my blood boil. "We need to call Adult Protective Services," I said. "With what proof?" Celeste shook her head. "These photos aren't enough, and Garrett will never admit it's happening. You know how he is about accepting help or seeming weak. We need concrete evidence." That's when she suggested the camera. A small, wireless device that could be hidden in his living room and streamed directly to my phone. It was technically legal since it was his own home, and we both had legitimate concerns about his welfare. The plan was simple: gather evidence, confront Valentina, and if necessary, involve the authorities. Installing the camera was easier than I'd expected. During one of my regular visits, I positioned it inside a decorative clock on his bookshelf, angled to capture most of the living room where Garrett spent his days. The device was motion activated and would send alerts to my phone whenever it detected activity. For the first week, nothing seemed unusual. I watched Valentina help Garrett with his meals, assist him to the bathroom, and guide him through his physical therapy exercises. She seemed patient and professional. I was beginning to think Celeste's suspicions were unfounded. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, I received an alert while I was at work. I opened the app expecting to see the usual routine, but what I saw made my hand shake. Valentina was straddling my uncle on his recliner. Her back was to the camera, but there was no mistaking what was happening. Garrett's hands were on her waist, and she was moving rhythmically against him. The timestamp showed it was 2:30 p.m., right in the middle of what should have been his afternoon rest period. I slammed my laptop shut, my mind reeling. This wasn't abuse. This was something else entirely. Something that complicated everything I thought I knew about the situation. Over the next several days, I watched in horrified fascination as the afternoon encounters became a regular occurrence. Always around the same time, always lasting about 20 minutes, always followed by Valentina helping Garrett clean up and return to his normal routine. But here's what really disturbed me. Garrett wasn't being coerced. He was an active, willing participant. In fact, from what I could observe, he seemed happier than I'd seen him in years. The withdrawn, Depressed man my aunt had described was nowhere to be found in these recordings. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't concentrate at work. The ethical implications were staggering. Yes, my uncle was disabled, but he wasn't mentally incapacitated. He was a grown man capable of making his own decisions about his personal relationships. But this was also a professional caregiver in a position of trust, and there were probably laws being broken. After agonizing for 3 days, I decided to confront Garrett directly. I couldn't show him the recordings without admitting to the surveillance, but I could gauge his reaction and maybe get him to open up about his relationship with Valentina. When I arrived at his house that Friday afternoon, Valentina greeted me at the door with her usual polite smile. "Marcus, good to see you. Garrett's having a good day today." I found my uncle in his living room, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. We chatted about his physical therapy progress and the book he was reading, but I struggled to find a way to broach the subject weighing on my mind. Finally, I took a deep breath. "Uncle Garrett, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Are you happy with Valentina's care?" His expression shifted, becoming guarded. "Of course. Why would you ask that?" "Aunt Celeste has some concerns. She thinks Valentina might be hurting you." Garrett's laugh was bitter. "Celeste sees problems where none exist. She's been trying to undermine Valentina since day one." "But the bruises on your arms are from my physical therapy sessions," he interrupted. "My skin bruises easily now because of the medications. Celeste knows this, but she'd rather create drama than accept that I'm actually doing well." I studied his face, searching for signs of deception or fear. What I saw instead was annoyance and something else. Protectiveness. He was protecting Valentina. "Garrett, if something were happening between you and Valentina, something beyond professional caregiving, you could tell me. I wouldn't judge you." The color drained from his face. For a long moment, we stared at each other in silence. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "What are you really asking me, Marcus?" "I'm asking if you're having a relationship with your caregiver." Another long pause. Then, to my surprise, he nodded slowly. "It started about 6 months ago," he said. "It wasn't planned. It wasn't something either of us expected. But yes, Valentina and we care about each other. Deeply." The weight of his confession settled between us. "Uncle Garrett, this complicates things. There are professional boundaries, legal implications." "I know," he said firmly. "But I'm not a child, Marcus. I'm a grown man who's been given a second chance at happiness. For the first time since my diagnosis, I feel like I'm living instead of just existing." "But Aunt Celeste thinks she's abusing you." Garrett's expression hardened. "Celeste thinks a lot of things. She thinks I should be grateful for her weekly visits and her attempts to manage my life. She thinks I should accept being treated like an invalid who can't make his own decisions. She's never accepted that our marriage is over. And she sure as hell can't accept that I might find happiness with someone else." The pieces were falling into place, creating a picture I hadn't expected. "She's jealous. She's vindictive," Garrett corrected. "When she realized I was happier with Valentina than I'd ever been with her, she started this campaign to get rid of her. The concerns about abuse, the surprise visits, the constant questions about my care. It's all designed to drive Valentina away." I felt sick. "Garrett, I need to tell you something. Celeste convinced me to install a hidden camera in your living room. I've been watching your interactions with Valentina." The blood drained from his face. "You've been spying on me." "I thought I was protecting you." "From what?" "From being happy." His voice rose, anger replacing shock. "From having someone who actually cares about me as a person, instead of as a burden to be managed." "I'm sorry. I thought." "You thought wrong." He was shaking now, whether from rage or his condition, I couldn't tell. "How much did you see?" I couldn't meet his eyes. "Enough." "And what are you going to do with what you saw?" It was the question I'd been dreading. "I don't know." "Let me make this simple for you," Garrett said. "Valentina and I are 2 consenting adults. Yes, she's my caregiver, but she's also the woman I love. We've been planning to make this official. She's going to quit the agency and move in with me as my partner, not my employee. The agency will have to know why she's leaving. They'll know she's transitioning to a private arrangement. They don't need details about our personal relationship. I stared at him, trying to process everything. What about Celeste? What about her? She has no say in my personal life. She gave up that right when she divorced me. She'll be devastated. She'll be angry that her plan failed, Garrett corrected. Marcus, I need you to make a choice here. Are you going to support my happiness? Or are you going to help your aunt destroy it? The weight of his words settled on my shoulders. I thought about the man I'd watched on those recordings, the joy on his face, the way he seemed to come alive during those intimate moments. Then I thought about Celeste, about her genuine concern that I now realized wasn't so genuine after all. I'll remove the camera, I said finally. And the recordings? Deleted. Garrett nodded slowly. And Celeste? This was the hard part. I have to tell her something. She's expecting evidence. Tell her the truth. Tell her there's no abuse. Tell her Valentina is providing excellent care. Tell her to stop interfering in my life. She won't accept that. Then that's her problem, not mine. I left that day with a heavy heart, but also with a strange sense of clarity. I'd gone into this situation believing I was protecting my uncle from abuse, only to discover I was actually helping to perpetuate a different kind of abuse, the abuse of his autonomy and right to happiness. When I told Celeste there was no evidence of physical abuse on the recordings, she demanded to see them herself. When I refused and told her I'd deleted everything, she accused me of being manipulated by Valentina somehow. When I suggested she might be projecting her own issues onto the situation, she stopped speaking to me entirely. 2 weeks later, Garrett called to tell me that Valentina had officially resigned from the agency and moved in with him as his partner. They're planning to get married next spring. He sounds happier than I've heard him in years. Celeste has continued her campaign, filing complaints with the state agency, and even attempting to contact Valentina's immigration attorney, convinced there's some kind of conspiracy at play. She's turned other family members against Garrett, painting him as a victim of elder abuse and manipulation. I've become the family pariah for refusing to support her crusade. Most of our relatives believe I'm either naive or complicit in what they see as exploitation of a vulnerable man. But here's what I know. I've seen the recordings. I've talked to both Garrett and Valentina. I've watched their relationship develop from surveillance, footage to personal observation. What they have is real, consensual, and brings them both genuine happiness. Sometimes protecting someone means respecting their right to make their own choices, even when those choices complicate your life or challenge your assumptions about what their life should look like. I thought I was installing that camera to catch a predator. Instead, I caught two people finding love in the most unexpected circumstances. The real betrayal wasn't what I thought I'd find. It was my own willingness to violate my uncle's privacy based on someone else's jealousy and inability to let go. The recordings are gone. The camera is gone. But the lesson remains. Sometimes the people we think we are protecting don't need our protection. They need our respect. Thanks for listening to my story. If you found it thought-provoking, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you would have done in my situation.